You may have seen beautiful websites in your life which has a background color in a particular element or in the entire website. So this is what we're going to learn in this video. Now with that, I want to share with you a very beautiful website called unsplash.com, which has a lot of different images that you can download and use. So I've actually downloaded an image by Brent Cox over here from Unsplash, and I'm going to use it in this tutorial. Now over here, we have already learned about background color. So let's say if I want a background color over here, I can simply say background color and call it blue. And this particular container, which is BG with a class of BG, and it's applied over here, will have that particular background color. So I've saved it, refresh, and you see the background color is here. And no matter how big or small this is, the background color will persist. Now you can actually have an image as well. So simply by using the property background image, you can actually add that. So for that, oops, I forgot the G. So background image. So the property, the way the value works is you actually provide the URL location of where this image is. So whether it could be on the internet, you can say http whatever location.com and the image name. Or you can refer this particular image from your files, from your project files. So in my project, I've actually included that image, rocks.jpg. So if I want to refer this particular image, I will provide the location, the relative location of where this file is. So since this style.css is inside the CSS folder, we want to refer this image which is one folder up, right? So we have learned that when you're referring any files relatively to that particular location, so this is style.css inside the CSS folder. So we say dot dot to move one folder up, and then the file is available there in the parent folder. So rocks.jpg. I save, refresh, and you see that image shows up over here. Now, actually, the text is also there, but you don't see it because the colors are black over here and the image is black as well. Now, you may say, hey, this is not the image that we had. Actually, it is. So if you go over here, this is the top right corner, which is totally dark, shows up because this image is so big. So let's say if you want to resize this image so it kind of looks proper in our website, what do? We actually can change the size of this image by the background size property. So background dash size, and we say, hey, we want to cover this entire container. So I can even provide pixels. So let's say if I do 500 pixels over here, and let's see what happens. Save, refresh, and you see that the width of this particular image was 500 pixels. That's why, it's slightly better. But we say, oh, hey, I don't know, my website users may have different screen sizes. So I just want to be sure that the image is fully stretched, all right? Fully stretched to the width. So I can provide a property called cover. So save, refresh, and you see it attempts to cover the full area that it can possibly. So if I make it as large or as small, it attempts to cover the full area and resizes the image to cover that width. Now you may say, hey, I don't care about that. I want to just make sure that the entire image shows up. The full image is kind of contained. So for that, there's a property that the value you can provide called contain. Save, refresh, and it says, hey, I'm going to make sure that I fully fit in. So that's why it kind of shrinks itself to make sure it fully fits in to the available area fully. And since there's more space available, it actually repeats itself, right? So we say, hey, we don't want it to repeat. We just want it to be once, show up once. So we say background, repeat. There's a property called repeat. And we say no dash repeat. So do not repeat the image. Save, refresh, and you see the image only shows up once and there's no repetition. And that's why the background color shows up. Now if I make it small or big, there's space over here, so the background image, the height of this container is bigger than the image, so the background color shows up. Now you may say, hey, I don't want this particular image to be on the left hand side. We want it to be in the middle. So there's a property for that as well. So we can simply do background position and say, hey, make it in center. So save, refresh, and it shows up in the center. Now you do not have to memorize all of this stuff, right? Because developers don't memorize these things. You should not memorize it. I don't memorize it. You just get it with practice. And if you want to know about these properties, you can just simply Google them and go to the reference. And I've repeatedly told you about the reference of Mozilla documentation, but in this case, the background image documentation is very well documented on w3schools.com. So you can look up those details. Now, one last thing I want to share with you is there's a shortcut, a shorthand property called background that actually helps you put in all of these properties in just one line, just like this, all right? So side by side. So if you want all of these rather than writing all these multiple lines of code, you can actually have it as a short form and you would put it in this particular order, all right? So there are other properties as well like origin and clip and attachment, and they're not as popular or as they're not as much used. So these are the ones which I shared with you are the more common ones, okay? So if you want to write it in the shorthand format, you want to put it in this particular order. And if you're using a particular size property together, so if you're using position and size in one line, you want to separate it with a slash over here, just like that. So just to show it to you, I can just make that over here. So background, and first I'm going to put in the color blue, and just for this purposes, I'm actually going to hide or actually comment out all of this. Save, refresh, the background is there. So if I want to add the URL as well, I can simply put a space and put it over here, save, refresh, and yes, the background is there. And then if I want to provide the position and size both, position actually comes first according to our notes over here, position is next. So I'm going to put my position, which is center, and then I'm going to just make this big. Then I'm going to put a slash and then put in contain. And then I'm going to put in the repeat property. And the reason I'm putting it in this order is because our documentation tells us to put it in this particular order, okay? And that's, I don't remember it, I just look it up. All right, so save, now I'm going to refresh, and the results should be the same as if I wrote it in the long form format. So now you can actually apply the same background to, let's say if you want it on your body, the entire body, save, refresh, and you see the full body of your entire body actually has this effect. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video. Actually, I'm going to revert back to the BG, so for our example. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to talk to you in the next.